There's a moment every homebuyer faces, the moment when the dream of owning a home starts to feel like a distant fantasy. Prices keep rising, the market keeps tightening, and for many families across America, the idea of affordable home ownership feels like it's slipping further out of reach. But what if the story isn't as hopeless as it seems? What if there are still places in the US where home prices are so low they stop you in your tracks? Today, we're diving into 10 states where home prices are so low in the United States based on the latest trends from Redfin, World Population Review, and other 2024 to 2025 housing reports. These aren't the states everyone talks about. These are the ones quietly offering cheap homes, low cost of living, and rare opportunities for real estate, relocation, or even property investment at prices that almost feel impossible in today's market. Before you pack your bags, here's what you need to know. Finding true affordability in America isn't just about chasing low prices. It's about understanding climate, culture, job markets, community lifestyle, and whether the long-term real estate market actually supports your future. And that's exactly what this countdown will reveal. Where value still exists, and why these overlooked places might hold the last great shortcuts to financial freedom in the housing world. So buckle up, because the deeper we go into this list, the more surprising and eye-opening it becomes. And trust me, the number one spot is unbelievable. Stay with me all the way to the end, hit that like button, and let's jump straight into the countdown. Number 10. Missouri. If affordability had a personality, Missouri would be that quiet coworker who never says much, but somehow owns 2 houses, 3 acres of land, and still packs lunch from home. With a typical home price sitting around $255,000 to $260,000, Missouri is one of those states where you look at the listing, look at your bank account, and think, wait, is this a typo? Spoiler, it isn't. So why is Missouri hanging out on the cheaper end of the US real estate spectrum? First, you've got St. Louis and Kansas City, 2 major metros with plenty of existing housing stock. Translation: lots of homes, lots of options, and not enough population growth to make prices explode like in those Sunbelt boomtowns where everyone seems to be fleeing the snow. Missouri's market is like, relax, we're good. Then you head into the Ozarks or northern Missouri, and suddenly the prices drop even more. Small towns and rural areas here are the definition of affordable living. You can find places where a 3-bedroom home costs less than the national median rent. Yes, rent, as in monthly payment versus full home price. Missouri's real estate market is basically handing out starter homes like it's trying to boost attendance. And if you're the kind of person who likes being connected without paying coastal premiums, Missouri's got you. Its central location puts you within reasonable distance of just about everything. Good highways, solid rail connections, and property taxes that won't make you sweat through tax season. It's the middle child of states, geographically and financially, reliable, practical, and surprisingly helpful. But let's not act like it's all rainbows, barbecue, and bargain mortgages. Some cities in Missouri face crime challenges, school quality concerns, and patchy infrastructure in certain areas. This is a state where you absolutely, positively need to do neighborhood-level research. One side of a city might be charming and peaceful, the other side might make you rethink your life decisions. Job markets also vary like Missouri's weather, predictable in some areas, questionable in others. Kansas City in certain suburbs? Strong. Some shrinking industrial towns? Not so much. So if you're thinking of moving, pair your, wow, this is cheap excitement with a healthy dose of, let me double-check the job listings. Still, for buyers who want affordability without completely unplugging from civilization, Missouri delivers the goods. It's the place where your dollars stretch, your mortgage stays humble, and your real estate dreams actually feel within reach. Missouri isn't trying to be flashy, it's trying to be livable, and honestly, in today's market, that's a superpower. Number 9. Indiana. Indiana is one of those states that quietly minds its business and somehow ends up being one of the best deals on the housing market. With a typical home price hovering around $255,000, the Hoosier state is basically saying, look, we're not flashy, but we won't drain your bank account either. And honestly, in this economy, that's a love language. So why is Indiana sitting pretty on the affordability charts? For starters, it's smack in the middle of the country, geographically and financially. Instead of extreme coastal demand or overpriced mega metros, Indiana is filled with moderately priced suburbs and small cities where people actually have space, driveways, and that mysterious thing coastal residents whisper about, a yard. This central setup keeps prices calm, cool, and collected. And here's the kicker. The cost of living is about 10% below the national average. That means your dollars stretch further. Your groceries aren't plotting against you, and your housing costs don't feel like a monthly jump scare. Indiana is like the friend who always finds a discount code. It's built into their personality. From a buyer's perspective, Indiana makes life easy. The state has strong highway connections, commutes that won't make you age prematurely, and closing costs that don't feel like a crime against humanity. Then there's Indianapolis, one of the few mid-sized cities where you can still get urban energy without urban pricing trauma. Indy gives you culture, sports, nightlife, and neighborhoods that don't require billionaire budgets. But before we start packing our bags, let's keep it real. Indiana isn't a boomtown state, which means home appreciation tends to jog, not sprint. If you're expecting your house value to skyrocket overnight, no. Indiana's growth style is more steady slow dance than electric slide. And let's talk weather. Winters in Indiana do not play. Snowstorms, ice, wind that disrespects your coat, it's a whole personality. Plus, a lot of older homes need energy efficiency upgrades because drafty windows mixed with Midwest winter will have you heating the entire neighborhood. Still, if you're looking for affordability, stability, and practicality, Indiana delivers in all the ways that matter. It's not trying to be glamorous, it's trying to be livable. And in a housing market full of drama, sometimes livable is the exact plot twist buyers need. Indiana doesn't shout for attention, but your wallet will notice it instantly. Number 8. Louisiana. Louisiana is that friend who's full of personality, fun, unpredictable, a little messy, and somehow still one of the best deals in town. With a typical home price sitting around $245,000 to $250,000, the state practically whispers to buyers, come for the gumbo, stay for the mortgage you can actually afford. Now, let's get into why Louisiana is so affordable without hurting anyone's feelings. Too much. A big part of it comes down to economic volatility. Between energy markets, shipping industries, and, the regular appearance of hurricanes, long-term price spikes just don't stick the way they do in fast-growing Sunbelt metros. Add in tons of older housing stock, especially outside New Orleans' hottest neighborhoods, and you've got a market that simply doesn't inflate as aggressively as others. But here's the plot twist. Affordability doesn't mean boring. Louisiana is culturally rich in ways most places could only dream of. Music that moves your soul, food that ruins your self-control, and festivals that make you rethink your definition of normal weekend plans. And in many towns, owning a home is literally cheaper than renting, which feels like sorcery in today's housing market. Move away from the coast, and you'll find some of the lowest list prices in the Deep South, the kind of prices that make you double-check if the realtor accidentally left off a digit. It's one of the few places where your budget doesn't have to choose between space, style, and sanity. But before we romanticize too hard, let's keep it 100. Louisiana has real caveats. Flooding and hurricane risk aren't just possibilities, they're practically recurring characters. That means insurance can get wild or even hard to secure in certain parishes. And don't get me started on the infrastructure. Depending on where you land, the roads, drainage, and public services can swing anywhere from pleasant surprise to yikes, we'll need to talk about this. Still, Louisiana is a fascinating real estate story. A state where culture is priceless, but housing isn't. Where affordability meets authenticity, and where buyers willing to do their homework can uncover serious value. If you want a home with flavor, personality, and a mortgage that won't haunt you at night, Louisiana might be the twist you didn't see coming. Just bring your appetite, and maybe double-check those flood maps. Number 7. Arkansas. Arkansas is one of those places that quietly sits in the corner of the real estate world, sipping sweet tea and watching everyone else panic about home prices. With a typical home price around $250,000 to $255,000, the state is basically saying, relax, you can still buy a house without selling your soul or your future firstborn. And honestly, that alone deserves applause. So why is Arkansas hanging out with the affordability all-stars? It starts with the land, a lot of it. Large portions of the state are still highly rural, which keeps the cost of land low and the home prices even lower. Then you have the fact that outside the booming pockets of northwest Arkansas, Bentonville, Fayetteville, and the whole Walmart-adjacent universe, housing demand is pretty moderate. Translation: no bidding wars that end with you crying in your car. For buyers, Arkansas has some delightful surprises. In many counties, you can still find family homes priced below what the national median rent costs. Yes, you heard that right. Homeownership in Arkansas can literally cost less per month than renting an apartment in a mid-tier city. And if you've ever opened your property tax bill and immediately closed it again to pray, Arkansas has some comforting news. Property tax rates are generally lower than the U.S. average. Your wallet gets to breathe. But let's keep it balanced, because no state is perfect, not even one with cheap homes and gorgeous mountains. One thing to note, wages here tend to be lower than the national average, which can cancel out some of that affordability if your job depends heavily on local income levels. So remote workers? You're winning. Traditional wage earners? Plan wisely. Another consideration, big city amenities aren't always at your doorstep. Want specialized healthcare? Maybe a top-tier university? A massive concert venue? You might need to drive. And depending on where you settle, that drive can range from cute little road trip to, do I live on the frontier? Still, Arkansas is a state with heart, nature, and a shockingly reasonable housing market. It's the kind of place where your money stretches, your space expands, and your cost of living doesn't feel like a slow-motion attack. If you're looking for affordability with a side of peace and quiet, plus a home that won't make your bank app scream, Arkansas is definitely worth a look. Just be ready for slower paces, stunning landscapes, and the realization that you've been overpaying everywhere else. Number 6. Mississippi. Mississippi is one of those states where your wallet takes a deep breath, relaxes its shoulders, and whispers, finally, somewhere I can catch a break. With a typical home price around $250,000 to $255,000, Mississippi sits comfortably below the national median, like it has no intention of joining the overpriced chaos happening everywhere else. So why is housing still so affordable here? A big factor is the state's low median household income, one of the lowest in the nation. And when incomes stay low, home prices can't exactly sprint ahead. Add in a landscape full of rural communities and small towns, and you've got far less demand pressure than what you'll find in bustling metro areas across the country. Mississippi basically operates on a simpler supply and demand rhythm. Fewer bidding wars, more breathing room, and a lot less real estate drama. Now, if you're the kind of buyer who likes to stretch every dollar, Mississippi feels like a cheat code. The cost of living is very low across the board. Housing, groceries, utilities, and everyday necessities don't come with the big city price tag. Plus, the warm climate and relaxed pace of life make it a quiet magnet for retirees who want sunshine without Florida-sized mortgage payments. But before you start imagining your new front porch swing and sweet tea setup, let's talk about the realities. Mississippi faces high poverty rates, serious health outcome challenges, and limited economic mobility in many areas. This is a state where affordability often comes with trade-offs, and it's important to weigh what you value: price, opportunity, lifestyle, or long-term stability. And then there's the wild card: insurance and disaster risk costs along the Gulf Coast. Yes, the homes may be cheap, but that homeowner's insurance quote might have you squinting like, is this a joke? Unfortunately, it's not. Hurricanes, flooding, and storm damage risks can send insurance premiums through the stratosphere depending on where you settle. Still, Mississippi holds a unique place in the U.S. housing landscape. It offers affordability in a market that feels increasingly unreachable, and for buyers who prioritize budget, space, simplicity, and a slower pace of life, it delivers exactly that. This is a state where you can still buy a home without needing a financial miracle or a lottery win. Just remember, cheap homes don't always tell the whole story. But for the right buyer, Mississippi's story might be exactly what they've been looking for. We're halfway through the countdown. If you are enjoying the video so far, hit the like button, subscribe to Virtual Travel by Brian, and ring the notification bell for more informative content. Let's get back into it. Number 5. Michigan. Michigan is one of those states that feels like a plot twist in the housing market. With a typical home price around $245,000 to $250,000, it sits well below the national median, yet it offers scenery so stunning you'd think the real estate would cost coastal money. But nope, Michigan is out here serving Great Lakes views on a budget, like the generous friend who always brings extra snacks. Now, why is Michigan this affordable? A big reason is that most of the state isn't Ann Arbor or the pricier corners of Metro Detroit. Step outside those hot zones and you'll find small cities, rural towns, and lake-adjacent communities with surprisingly modest price tags. And here comes the economic reality. Decades of manufacturing decline left behind a massive amount of housing stock in some areas, while demand didn't keep pace. Result? Prices that sit comfortably in the still reasonable category. But Michigan isn't just cheap, it's underrated. Buyers get access to the Great Lakes, which look like oceans without the sharks, endless forests, and charming small towns where life slows down just enough for you to actually breathe. Think of it as coastal living, minus the coastal price. Plus, if you're the DIY type, Michigan is full of value-add opportunities, aka houses with good bones that could use a little love. This is where HGTV dreams come to life, if you can handle a Home Depot aisle or two. But before we paint the perfect postcard, let's talk about the fine print. First up, property taxes. Michigan's can be noticeably higher in some municipalities, which might make you feel like the government is silently judging your home choice. Then there's the weather. Oh, the weather. Lake effect snow is not for the faint of heart. Winter here doesn't just arrive. It kicks down the door, sets up camp, and refuses to leave until spring physically drags it out. And while Michigan's older homes have charm, they also have, well, age. Aging infrastructure is a real factor, meaning renovations might be necessary whether you plan for them or not. Roofs, pipes, insulation, you name it, Michigan will test it. Still, when you stack everything up, Michigan is one of the most fascinating housing deals in the country. Affordable homes, world-class freshwater scenery, outdoor recreation, small-town character, and pockets of urban life that won't bankrupt you. It's a state where your dollar stretches, your quality of life improves, and your Instagram suddenly becomes 80% lake sunsets. Sure, you'll need a snowblower and a little patience, but for many buyers, Michigan is absolutely worth the trade. Number 4. West Virginia. West Virginia is the kind of state that makes you stare at real estate listings like, hold on, is this for the whole house or just the backyard shed? With typical home prices ranging from about $160,000 to $250,000, it consistently ranks as one of the cheapest housing markets in America. It's basically the discount aisle of U.S. real estate, except instead of damaged boxes, you get mountains, forests, and front porches big enough for 3 rocking chairs and a sweet tea pitcher. So why is West Virginia this affordable? A few reasons. First, the state's rural, mountainous landscape naturally keeps demand low. It's not like there's a rush of people lining up to build skyscrapers on a mountain ridge. Add in the state's slower economic growth, and you get a housing market that simply doesn't accelerate the way coastal or Sunbelt states do. And here's a wild stat. West Virginia has the highest homeownership rate in the entire country, nearly 80%, because homes are so inexpensive that buying is practically the default option. But let's talk upsides, because West Virginia has them. If you love the outdoors, this state is an absolute playground. Hiking, rivers, mountains, scenic drives. Nature basically punches you in the face, in a loving way. And the affordability? Unmatched. In some places, you can literally buy a single-family home on actual land for the same price people in coastal states pay for a parking spot. Yes, a rectangle of pavement. Meanwhile, in West Virginia, that amount gets you rooms, trees, and maybe a creek. Now, before you pack your hiking boots and sign a mortgage, let's address the challenges. West Virginia doesn't exactly shower its residents with high-paying jobs. Outside a few metro pockets, good salaries can be hard to come by. which is a major reason prices stay so low. If you work remotely, fantastic. If not, prepare to do some job market gymnastics. Then there's the issue of infrastructure and healthcare access, which can be a bit uneven in the state's most rural corners. Luxury amenities in some counties might mean paved roads and a hospital you don't have to reach by crossing a river and two mountains. It's a trade-off. Breathtaking scenery, yes, but conveniences might require a bit of traveling. Still, here's the bigger picture. West Virginia is one of the few places left in America where homeownership is not just possible, it's practical. It offers affordability, natural beauty, and peaceful living for buyers who prioritize space, nature, and financial breathing room over fast-paced city life. If you're dreaming about a home where the views are priceless, but the mortgage isn't, West Virginia might just be your unexpected match. Number 3. Oklahoma. Oklahoma is one of those states that looks at the national housing market, shrugs and says, "Y'all are paying what for a one-bedroom?" With a typical home price around $240,000 to $245,000, Oklahoma sits firmly in the budget-friendly zone. So friendly, in fact, your mortgage might start feeling like a polite suggestion rather than a life sentence. So what keeps Oklahoma so affordable? For starters, the state has plenty of buildable land and development rules that don't make builders cry into their blueprints. When supply keeps flowing, prices stay grounded. Add in a low cost of living across the board. Housing, groceries, utilities, the whole package, and Oklahoma becomes the real estate equivalent of finding a coupon that actually works. But affordability doesn't mean you're stuck in the middle of nowhere, staring at tumbleweeds. Both Oklahoma City and Tulsa offer legit urban amenities, arts, food scenes, entertainment, job options, but the prices still look like suburb numbers compared to the coasts. You get city life without needing Silicon Valley stock options just to exist. Now let's sprinkle in some reality because no place is perfect. First up, severe weather. Oklahoma didn't choose tornadoes. Tornadoes chose Oklahoma and then stayed. Tornadoes, hailstorms, wind that tries to rearrange your roof. Nature is dramatic here. That means insurance premiums can get spicy, depending on where you buy. And there's the economic side of things. Oklahoma's fortunes can rise and fall with the energy sector. Oil and gas booms bring prosperity, while downturns can shake things up. If you're tied to that industry, the job market might feel like a roller coaster you didn't ask to ride. But when you put all the pieces together, Oklahoma is one of the most practical and value-packed housing markets in the country. You get space, affordability, functional cities, a relaxed cost of living, and enough elbow room to actually enjoy your home. Oklahoma isn't trying to be flashy or trendy, it's trying to be livable. And honestly, in today's housing landscape, that's a superpower. Just be prepared for weather alerts, and maybe hold on to your hat. Number 2, Ohio. Ohio is one of those states that quietly slides into the top of the affordability charts like, yeah, I belong here. With a typical home price around $230,000 to $240,000, Ohio isn't just affordable, it's aggressively reasonable. In a country where some cities are charging luxury prices for broom closet apartments, Ohio shows up like the calm, stable friend who pays their bills on time and doesn't make life harder than it needs to be. Why is Ohio so budget-friendly? A big part of it comes down to legacy industrial cities. Cleveland, Toledo, Youngstown, places with tons of older housing stock and far less demand compared to coastal metros. These cities built for bigger populations than they have today, which means lots of homes, less competition, and prices that don't spike just because someone posted a TikTok about moving there. Even in booming spots like Columbus, which consistently ranks among the Midwest's strongest job markets, home prices still sit below the national median. It's one of the few places in America where you can find opportunity and affordability without choosing between the two. The beauty of Ohio is its versatility. You want big city living without the financial trauma? Cleveland and Cincinnati have you covered with restaurants, sports, culture, and neighborhoods that don't require Bezos-level income. Prefer peace and simplicity? Ohio's got low-cost small towns where the pace slows down, neighbors know your name, and housing costs won't make you develop a stress twitch. And let's give Ohio credit where it's due. The infrastructure is solid. We're talking interstates that actually go places, major airports, reputable hospitals, and universities that people from out of state willingly attend. In a lot of regions, you can enjoy urban convenience without urban insanity. But don't let me fool you, there are watch-outs. Some areas are facing population loss, which can lead to stagnant markets or slower appreciation. A lot of that older housing stock? Yeah, it needs updates. Think charm meets surprise repairs. And depending on the county, property taxes can get a little too bold, stepping into your budget like they pay rent. Still, when you zoom out, Ohio is one of the most balanced states on this list. It offers affordability, stability, city options, small-town charm, and a job market that isn't collapsing every 5 minutes. It's the kind of place where you can build a life, build equity, and actually breathe. Ohio may not be glamorous, but in this housing market, glamorous is overrated. Affordable, practical, and livable, now that's the real flex. Number 1. Iowa. And taking the number 1 spot on our list, Iowa, the quiet heavyweight champion of affordable housing, with a typical home price around $225,000 to $230,000. Iowa is basically standing in the middle of the U.S. housing crisis, saying, relax, we got space, we got houses, we got corn, everybody will be fine. So why is Iowa the reigning king of low-price living? It starts with the sheer amount of land and the abundance of small towns spread across the state. There's no shortage of space, and with modest population growth, there's nothing pushing prices into the stratosphere. Iowa just doesn't participate in the who can have the highest rent Olympics that some states seem to train for year-round. Then there's the income-to-home price ratio, which is one of the best in the entire country. Translation: local wages actually keep up with local housing costs. Imagine earning a normal salary and still being able to buy a home without selling your organs on the black market. Iowa makes that dream surprisingly real. And what does this look like on the ground? In many Iowa metros, a starter home with a yard and a garage is still within reach for the average middle-income household. That's right. You can have grass, storage space, and maybe even a driveway wide enough for 2 cars, all without needing billionaire parents or a tech startup exit. Of course, not everything is sunshine and affordability. Property taxes vary a lot across counties. Some feel wonderfully cheap, and others make you question whether the taxman confused you with a commercial real estate developer. And while school districts and services can be great in many areas, Iowa isn't trying to be New York or Los Angeles. You're not getting skyscrapers, Michelin star nightlife, or a subway system. Speaking of things Iowa isn't trying to do, warm winters. If you're not a fan of cold weather, Iowa will test your patience, your wardrobe, and your windshield wipers. And if you're hoping to get rich off skyrocketing home appreciation, well, slow and steady is Iowa's whole personality. This is long-term, stable, predictable growth, not a double your money in 3 years type situation. Still, when you add it all up, Iowa's housing market delivers everything the modern buyer needs: affordability, stability, space, and quality of life without financial stress. It's the kind of place where your paycheck doesn't just cover your bills, it actually lets you live. If this countdown opened your eyes to new possibilities, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more housing, relocation, and real estate insights from Virtual Travel by Brian. And tell me in the comments, which of these states surprised you the most?